think I got stain on this last year when I was doing something. See if I could figure it out. Where I've got one or two stains. I mean, like stain, wood stain. How do you get wood stain? How do you get oil stains out? WD-40. Here we go. Found it. Wait, never mind. That's not it. See, you know what's funny? Like people wear like anime shit. That's what you're supposed to do. So they get like views, whatever's current or whatever. But it's funny. People got their whole heads wrapped up in that shit. Um, you should like wear what you like. And you don't feel like wear it, don't wear. You know what I mean? It's just easier for your mentality. But it's just like hard because I don't know. It's just like people just look for all these artificial means or whatever, and they work very effectively. So it fools you into believing that is the most effective way. And it fooled me when I was very young too. So I'm like, but I lived a very different life. But when you were young and were very violent, you quickly realize you push through that threshold. Um, you become very pragmatic because every decision you made is like your life, and your friend's life and everything, right? So you don't look for those things. You realize that honesty and being truthful and those things that have people stand by you no matter what, or at least long enough to prevent violence, you know what I mean? And it's not going to be bullshit. And when everything's past, all the bullshit's gone, uh, all the lies are done, the people that you were cool with, honest and tight with, they're going to be there. Everybody else is just going to fade away because it's just like they have nothing to offer, you know what I mean? I mean, it's the same thing with all these trends. So, getting back to the shirt, what am I doing? Getting back to the shirt, like, I like Lucio, saying, a little DJ and everything, so I like it. But everybody's just like, oh, if you don't like, anime, I don't like anime, but if you don't like anime or this Marvel character, don't fucking like the guy. Don't wear it. It's okay. People like, all right, and just be cool with people, like, saying, be like, I'm just with the trend or whatever. I mean, if you're going with trends, cool. What I'm saying? But just throw it down every once in a while. It's just like, I'm just trying to follow everybody, be, saying, doing what's reviews or whatever. Just be cool about it. I'm talking about? Be chill about, be honest, but don't full sell yourself out because it'll fuck with you, man. I'm telling you, man, because then life is already act, and you gotta put another bullshit act on top of that, man. It's just too much, man. Um, I was a mod for what do you call it? This one person, and this person liked Harry Potter, and you should just go with what you like. You know what I'm saying? But then everybody else, because of my off stream, what I did when I was younger, was like, okay, well, this is what that is. So everybody started liking Harry Potter. I'm like, what I'm saying, tangential. And it's just like these very obscure things, and it's like you just go off and like it's not natural. Just stick to what's natural. I mean, how long are you gonna like Harry Potter? I mean, it's a 20-year reunion. I'm talking about. It's just like, come on. So still do those trends, but look what's the most natural out of those trends. You know what I mean? It's just like, you know what I mean? So you gotta have this balance. Like if you got six trends, half a dozen, six a dozen, half a dozen one of the other trends or whatever, a dozen things before you. Go with the one that's most natural. The people that just naturally gravitate towards or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, go with what you like, and then go with that. You know what I'm saying? Go with what you like, and what people just naturally pick up. Like, oh, I see out in the real world people like that. You know what I'm talking about? Do that, man. It's like, stop chasing all this because you're getting wrapped your head around all these bullshit lies and all this crazy shit, man. It's just like, and you know, even growing up, that it happened to me. You know, say I would say something off the cuff, and like 3 months later, people would say back to me, like, "It's Brandon." I'm like, "No, dude." And it's like, "This is how this seaside was, man." It's like I got in a couple stabbings and a lot of other shit growing up. You know, I'm talking about, and it's just like we're just so ingrained into like this gladiatorial mindset of the most aggressive person. And I finally realized that's all it was. You know, it had nothing to do with skill, talent, or whatever. And we're just very attuned to our neocortex is ingrained into this very aggressive thing. You know, we just go right for it, and we want to believe that has skill. We want to believe that has ability. We want to believe that this corrupt, this um, this aggression, this brutality, this what's the word? Sadism, this personality that obfuscates like its power or perceives itself as power is skill, and it's not. You know what I'm talking about? And you just realize that, and then you just sit back and you're just like, and you look at the world differently. Like, I can't do that. You know what I mean? It's just like you're thrown in a situation where you have to defend yourself, but what they really like is that the side things of it, and it just corrupts you. And then you know what I'm talking about? And so you just take a step back, and you guys got to realize we are all hardwired like that, and we have to focus on like real stuff, like real skill, real talent, and push for that, and realize that even though you reached out of that, other people are never lived that life or had those experiences, so they got to learn that late in life, and to them it's all new. And of course, because the color of skin, you got to be fool, you got to have this negative connotation no matter what it is, like you're dumb, they're this, that, no matter what, you know what I'm talking about? Even if you have a degree or only this other shit, because they've been influenced, you know, by this neo-Nazi mentality or whatever, but they can't acknowledge it or admit to it later on or whatever, you know what I'm talking about? So it's just like, I don't have time for it, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's not my fault you got corrupted into this cult like mentality, and you're trying to play it off like other people are falling for it. You know what I mean? It's just like whatever. Um. Anyways, I'm just waiting for my meds to kick in. It's like before I do some cleaning up. I gotta throw what's left of Christmas dinner away. And I think I had a little bit of a turkey's already. I ate it, and I just sort of left it in there for about a week and switched over to my roast. And then I get back to it, and I'm like, maybe I'll go back and no, I'm like, fuck that, I'm throwing it away. It's just a little bit something left or whatever. So anyway, I gotta do a bunch of other stuff like that. Gotta haul my ass, my happy ass down the stairs, throw it away. So let me get my meds in and shit like that. Whatever else. Start cleaning up because I want to use my sink to clean up my Christmas mat, dinner mat, and whatever towels and everything else like that. And then pack it up, you know, talking about. So I want to do that. I started doing that a little bit today, even though technically it's Orthodox Christmas, whatever. They took down the tree over in Almoana, like real early. I mean, that's how it is out here in Hawaii, man. It's just like, it's just super fucking quick, you know. It's not even Christmas and shit, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, whatever, you know. That's why I was thinking about the title was Paradise and everything. So I'll get back to that. I think Paradise would be able to travel. If you want to go here, there, I think experience a white Christmas or the weather. So I'm lucky that the weather over here is good. But just in a nutshell, I think why I cultivated this image of it being a paradise because it's very not segregated, separated from other parts of the world. So you have that. So it's very distant. Took a very long time to get here to sail here. So it's like somewhere far off on the map. So that had part of it, right? But you know, it's just something they cultivated and just they sort of like How can I put this real? If someone infringes upon it, they get really upset because they don't really have all these experience of the outside world, and so they don't know that it's just based on image, and they actually believe it over and over again, and they propagate it out. And not a lot of people get here, and so they propagate it out. So the thing is, once that happens, and you think like no matter what you do, it is paradise, you're not addressing the problems, and the problem is like it's almost like you don't want to take care of the problems and you want to push responsibility off on others, and it is their problem, and somehow it's just this big reciprocating downward spiral. So you have this image, anybody infringes upon that image, they're at fault, and we can blame them on them. It's like people from the mainland doing it. People, well, the problem is, if you blame it on people from the mainland who bring in talent over here, and by and large, then it isn't. You know what I'm talking about? And I'm gonna put this like this way: if there's no Polynesian blood per se, and you're living and you got to propagate out this paradise, and Hawaii's paradise, and you're Hawaiian because you were born here, and you're not Hawaiian, you're Filipino, whatever, you're Japanese or whatever, and it's you live in like this um self-defeating lie because it's self-fulfilling prophecy of defeatism because you're trying to live up to something you're not, what I'm talking about? So it's really difficult, what I'm talking about? It's like I have information coming about myself. Am I fully Navajo? Technically, by blood. Culturally, no. Am I Italian? Culturally, yes. By blood, no. I mean, what I'm talking about? So I have to be honest about it, so, but that honesty gives me confidence, but I talk about it at length, what I'm talking about? So it's just like living here, talking about it, I understand it. I mean, being adopted and having all these other things, talking about. So if you keep putting out this lie, you got to fulfill that lie. Talking about. But it's going to be self defeating, is because once that lie comes crashing down, you have nothing to prop yourself up other than more lies. And that's what I finally realized about living here. Um, the poverty and everything else like that. I was looking at some photos and videos of Puerto Rico and the issues they have over there. And I remember one saying about trash and everything. I was like, that's nothing compared to Hawaii, you know. So I mean, things can be done, and I think it's the thing is the quality of people you bring in, them bringing in a skill, you know, something contribute, leaving it better than you left it. It's like I think that needs to be the mentality. So if you're going to cultivate a um, a perception of paradise, then what I'm saying, make sure you do it the right way. What I'm talking about? I mean, you want people to come visit you because your place is the best, is whatever, what I'm talking about. But make sure that the people you're bringing in have a certain mentality, what I'm talking about. I mean, you could tell them, well, respect this, respect that. No, but you come in here, saying how put something, build something, I'm talking about, make it better, I'm talking about. And there's certain professions that do that, like doctors and stuff like, medical profession, just by, or this stuff like this. I mean, sometimes it's a profession or whatever, but that's the kind of mentality you want, and make that a whole cultural aspect of it, not just like, this bland, this facade of saying, oh yeah, gotta make Puerto Rico great again, or make Hawaii beautiful again, whatever the fuck it is. But that, I think that has to be a lot of it, instead of always being, you know, um, in this colonization mentality where you have conquistador, I'm talking about, and no, I'm full native. I'm not nothing conquistador, and now these other people are colonizing me, and so fuck you, don't come to my, land or whatever. And it's just like, I get it, I understand it, but that's not doing anything to better anybody. I'm talking about, you need like real quality of life improvements, and what does that look like? We need to know what it looks like. I'm talking about. We need to know exactly what those processes, and just having an attitude to make you feel good for a little bit ain't gonna do it. It's not. What I mean? It's just like being over here pushing your responsibilities. Everybody that visits here or whatever else, like that's half your family. I'm talking about, it's homeless. I'm talking about, you're blaming on that, and not, and pushing that blame is giving you this self. uh self-defeating mentality not to handle it. You know what I'm talking about? As them people, as them. And so anybody fringes on that, it's just like you take offense for it. You know what I mean? I mean, I seen it. You know what I'm talking about? Now I'm just like, I just, it just, I don't know, man. I don't see the problems getting any better because you got to take responsibility for your own actions. You know, and you got to realize the problem is with people born and raised here, and you are living off of a lie that cannot be fulfilled. You're giving people a lie that you yourself do not have. We call this paradise because of the weather. Anywhere south of the Tropic of Cancer is going to have that weather. And what is paradise? Paradise is going to where, wherever the weather is good. Maybe you live in a fucking igloo, like people sometimes said when I grew up. Oh, hello, there's that igloo motherfucker, teepee guy, or whatever the fuck ever. You know what I mean? Or me walking in the door, hey, I'm Native American. Next person over, he's just Puerto Rican. You ever heard the Cupagra, Cupacha, whatever the fuck that shit is? No, I didn't ever hear of it, man. Shit, that's me coming down from North Jersey to the Jersey Shore, man. It's like, why the fuck, you know what I'm saying? It's just like people don't want to hear the truth, you know what I'm talking about? They'll just call you whatever the fuck they think you are, and that's what you are. You know what I mean? So it's just like chupacabra, my fault. But you know what I'm saying? It's just like that was day one of being in Seaside. You know what I'm talking about? Day motherfucking one. I was like, and so it's just a little bit trippy. It was definitely a culture shock. You know what I mean? So, but I got off on a tangent. Dial it back. Dial it back. Dial it back. See, when you cultivate this image of paradise, you believe yourself is entitled, that you're special, you're better than something, and it's good. But you have to base it on something core, something very solid. You know what I'm talking about? And I think the best way to go about that is things that cannot be touched, something that cannot be, no matter what you say about it, is going to be real. So if you want to say Hawaii and Hawaiian, you know what I'm talking about? You need to basically associate that with something that no matter what someone says, it's still going to be the truth. And the only way to do that is cultural elements. It's not going to be any behavior. It's not going to be an image. It has to be how to make a fish hook, how to dance hula technically, how to make, you want to be cool, some of the men, you know what I mean, dancing or whatever, you probably gravitate how to make a Hawaiian weapon. That's how you do it, how to make a Polynesian weapon. You can't argue that. I mean, you could get into more depth about the proper techniques of how to do it, but that's how you keep it. That's what Hawaiian, and that's what being native is. You know what I'm talking about? This other shit of some kind of image is arguable. And that way, you know what I'm saying, it's just, it it just won't hold. You know what I'm talking about? And that's the problem. Because you're putting out that you have all this, that you're 100% this or that or whatever, when there's no Hawaiian blood. You know what I'm talking about? It's just not going to work. You know what I'm talking about? So it's just, it's kind of frustrating because you see all these people say are Hawaiian, then you see the one curly haired Polynesian, the one out of 1,000 that says, they're Hawaiian. And they're probably Samoan or Tongan. You know what I'm talking about? And of course, they don't look good as Hawaiians. You know what I'm talking about? They're a sub race. They're a subcategory. They're not, saying they don't, whatever. They're not as good enough because they're darker. They have more Polynesian blood. I mean, it's just, it's living off of a fucking lie. It cannot be maintained. You know what I'm talking about? Because you cultivated this lie. You know what I'm talking about? And what is, like I said, I'm going back to what is paradise. You know what I'm saying? If you like weather, good weather, then it has to be that. But it's really these small things in life, people coming up to you and just being cool with you, being polite. I realized that through my time on this earth that it's that. You know, I'm talking about be able to fill your goals, be around people that want your best interest, that are advocating for you, that come up to you directly and give you those pleasantries and just those small little things, you know, I'm talking over and over again. And I think that's what I had in Jersey for a certain part of, don't get me wrong, I was hated and loved in Jersey, but it's just like, well, you know, you must have been loved, must have been hated. And I had both, you know, most loved, most hated. And now that I achieved something and I got a degree and I have money coming in, I know I could go someplace where I could give to society with my occupation. You know, as hopefully I could learn real estate really good that I could take it to Puerto Rico and do good things with it. You know, I'm talking about because by nature I am a nativist and a naturalist, same things. But I'm definitely a capitalist, whatever. But I love nature. So I got all these different things and I want to make a perfect blend of everything, you know what I'm talking about? And I do believe in social programs, you know what I'm talking about? So it's just like you need a certain foundation of life, a quality of living, and then your ambition, well your drive, your motivation to reach higher needs to carry up. You need to have that base, you know what I'm talking about? So we live in a hybrid system and I love this hybrid system, but the more nativist, real nativist and naturalist families you put in is much better. So that's what I want to bring. But I think by and large, if I learn Spanish, um, I'll be able to have those little elements what I feel is paradise. People coming up to you being polite, by and large. Because out here it's just like you walk in a store and it's like being in Jersey, like subject Alpha One walking down the street. I mean, come on, dude, you know what I'm saying? I'm tired of just being followed by security all the time, you know what I mean? And it's just like it's just annoying. You know what I mean? It's just like people cool with you, but they're not. You know what I mean? It's just like it's just it's like dealing with people from the South sometimes. They know they're supposed to be cool with Puerto Ricans, but they don't know how to. And it takes a little bit of getting up to speed. You know, it's just something like that. But it's how can I put this? I walk into a room in Jersey, Italians, Irish, or whatever. Um, Other people. Usually Irish and Italians gonna be cool with me. 50-50 sometimes, you know, talking about sometimes, you know, it depends, you know. Um, then you got Latinos, um, usually cool, really cool, you know, I'm talking about. If third, fourth, fifth generation, probably not, you know, I'm talking about. It's just like, this is the problem. Like, let me go, I'm going off on a tangent. Let me restart everything. This is when I first got here. I'm gonna say how it was. Whatever. This is the Marine Corps actually. You know, I'm talking about. So, and all these people who are at UH is like, he's just a Marine, you know, saying, can't capable of having a degree, and then I have a degree, and it's like, there's no way he would have served, and it's just it's the odd thing. It's like they get mad at you for what you do. Like he achieved something, so we got to remove him. You know what I mean? And I know that goes back to probably something beyond the FBI, where they know your origins are, and they know that there's a sediment of Texans that are view themselves as native and they want you to be viewed as native. You know what I'm talking about? So it really frustrates the fuck out of them because if you got this larger group of native people, it really upsets society. Now you have Baliquas saying they're native and now they're combining and you want to separate Texans and native Texans and Baliquas who say they're native and everything. Native Baliquans, my fault. And if they merge or whatever, you have now this combined entity or whatever, and this upsets everything. It's like combined forces, and it's just like, no, we can't have that. We got to separate them. And I knew that from a very young age or whatever, you know what I'm talking about? And because someone let it slip, you know what I'm talking about? It's just like, but I was just like, what does that have to do with me? You know what I mean? And then you just sort of, so I didn't understand the sentiment in Texas or whatever, you know what I'm talking about? Is I didn't know the difference growing up, you know between Puerto Rican, Mexican, or anything like that, or Texan, or Italian, or anything, man. Because every time I woke up, all I saw was Germans and Italians. I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, but I'm talking about. But it's just you encounter people that knew about your origins, and and then when you got involved with law, were able to bypass your adoption records and everything like that, and you sort of know they had access to it because my twin brother's name is Lee, and one of my friends that I'll never talk to him again was Lee back in the day. I'm talking about. So it's just like these little things, and my good friends were twins, and I'm a twin, and I have two sisters, and I was put in a family with two sisters. This odd these things that are beyond coincidental. You know what I'm talking about? Like my adopted Puerto Rican family, closer than my adopted family, sister's name is Missy, and my biological older sister name is Missy. It's just this, and there's so many other things that just they already knew to attend to them back in Jersey, and I didn't even know my biological history. You know what I'm talking about? Like, and whenever I dealt with someone, there was this huge reach out towards Texas, and I just I was like, I don't even know if I have family, or I don't even know if I have any family. You know what I mean? I don't know. I did not know. It's just like I'm about to tear because it's just I know very little, man. I had no idea. Like, and now I want to get down to the nitty gritty of it because I still remember like the notes. It's like we know notes about your dad, and now I know it's from my mom who says I'm still swears I'm a stillborn. And so, but she told them that I'm Navajo and Hopi. And so I had to see these side little notes stick into my adoption file and trace that. And they said the best way to go about it is the Hopi blood because Navajo is pretty much going to be everywhere. And so the Hopi blood could really be narrowed down. So that's the avenue that I could really focus in on, I'm talking about to get definitive answers or whatever. But it's sort of like my family in Jersey, I'm talking about with Italians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans. You're Italian in the Bronx, but you have Irish, German, Puerto Rican, Irish, Italian, Puerto Rican, German. That core group is going to be in the group. I'm talking about Italian. If you're Puerto Rican, well, you have other Latinos too. If you're Italian, if you're Puerto Rican, you're gonna have Puerto Rican, Irish, German, other Latinos, Cuban, Mexican, Dominican, uh, and with my family, I had Colombian also in my family. So my Colombian, no, not drop. My culturally Colombian, but my Colombian, technically, a little bit because my two sisters were Colombian, and I'm not saying I'm Colombian, but they're Colombian, and so they gravitated. So everything's were Colombian. You know what I'm talking about? So I have this affinity towards Colombian things. So I mean, like my brain pathways are in that. Like, but I'm not Colombian, but I'm like Colombian. You know what I mean? So it's just like those associations you can't really escape. You know what I mean? So are they Navajo? Not really. But them knowing that I'm Navajo and going to the reservation and then telling me about I think my older sister knows more about Navajo culture than I could guarantee you that she knows more about Navajo culture and Hopi culture than I do. She was in the reservation and she told me, "It's like you got a reservation. This is me." Oh my God! It's like I'm Mohawk. I was like, okay, you know what I mean? It's like no, I told like a small group of friends that I'm Navajo and Hopi. Like, you know what I'm talking about? So And even telling people Mohawk is just, like I said, walked in the door. Nah, that's just he's just Puerto Rican. But but the thing is, and out here it's just like there's Puerto Rican discrimination. Yes, motherfucker, there's Puerto Rican discrimination. And it's just another slap in the face. Boom, like it's like you got to stand up for being native, Puerto Rican, Colombian, and you know what I'm saying. And then people calling you, it's just like people. I don't know. It's just like this. Oh my god, man. It's just so aggravating. But it's funny though. It's something you get really lucky growing up. I mean, yeah. Um. So I don't know. I don't know. And, you grew up in an Italian household. And it's just so odd, man. The shit. You just I don't know, man. I have no idea. I don't even know where to begin. But it's just you have all these different influences, and your friends. I'm talking about. They come up to you first day of school. Um, they ask you, where you from? I'm from New Jersey, and like, what are you? Talking about it comes up, and I was like, well, I'm Latin. Got Italian. Um, I'm Native American, Mexican, Texan, Navajo. I don't know if you ever heard of it. And go over their house or whatever, and all they have is like Native American things and everything. And every time you show up, I know nothing about Mexican culture. All I know is like technically back in the day, or when I was born, I was in Texas and shit like that. Then I learned that I'm not really Aztec. I'm these other cross-border tribes and Navajo and Hopi on top of that. So, and they're mixed. I'm talking about Puerto Rican, Mexican, um, Cuban. So, and that's the only contact with Mexicans I've really had because Mexicans never wanted to speak to me because I was way too dark. I had too much native blood. And so, fifth, fourth generation Mexicans in Jersey, they were like too good for me, too good for us, too good for Puerto Ricans. And a lot of other Puerto Ricans that like who changed their name and wanted to be more Irish, Italian, or German or whatever, didn't want to say they're Puerto Rican, so they're just too good for the fifth, sixth generation Puerto Ricans, whatever. The ones from the island, it's like they're cool, whatever. It's just like, and so it's just like that's the only contact with Latino culture you got. You know what I mean? So it's just like I think you got your biological family, same thing. I'm talking about. It's just like they're Texan, Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Peruvian, all the other Inca, whatever the fuck it is. I don't. I mean, I don't know. Well, actually, I'm a little bit Peruvian. I don't know. It's mostly uh that side up or whatever, north of the Yucatan. So I mean, but that's the influences get over there. I don't know. I need to go to Texas to really know the dynamic. I know a lot of like Cubans settled there, Puerto Ricans settled there, a lot of Mexicans settled there, but the border got cut off, whatever. So what was north of the border stayed there. And then they propagated out. And I know I got blood relatives in upstate, yeah, upstate and like everywhere, talking about. So it's just odd, and they're like Italian. So, and that's what my adopted is Italian, Italian, German, Irish. No, that's Swiss German, Puerto Rican, Sicilian. So Of course, they're upstate, but it's like adopted. It's like, you know. So I mean, it's just this odd stuff, because my only grandparents I ever had were German, Deutsch, Sprechen Deutsch, Germans, and of course I couldn't call my grandfather, even though I'm adopted, because he's my step, not my step. Is he my step? God, great, you got your grandmother, and then saying, but they remarried, so it's still a German, but he's like Swiss German. So it's this odd thing. It's just like I already had to acknowledge it, but here I'm acknowledging it into like basically strangers that he's not really my my grandparent, but he is my grandparent, and so other people had to step in and be like, no, that's his, um, that's his grandfather or whatever, but he's Swiss German, but his actual grandfather is German. You know what I'm talking about? So it's just like it's just this odd thing, you know what I mean? So it's just like I don't know, man. It's just like growing up and everything. And my dad, my dad was very hardworking. We would go over to extended people's households, and on my mom's side is German, and we would see like a portrait, and you could tell like there was a portrait right there. My dad would be like, took your Hitler, took your Hitler portrait down or whatever. What I mean? He's like, put it back up, as we already know. It's like sometimes they forget, and bring me over. You know who this is? I was like, I'm like fucking this big and shit. Oh, that's Hitler, you know what I mean? So that's Jersey for you. So like you can't be surprised what happened. You know what I'm talking about? You just can't be. Like I think me and my friends suppressed neo-Nazi for a long time in the Jersey Shore. And then when I left to go to the Marine Corps, it's propagated up. I mean, the thing is like we can't hide these things. We just got to be open with who we are, and that's give us confidence. Now we're these mixes of people. We all want to say we're 100% pure and everything, but that's not going to work. You can't live this lie. It's just not. What is going to suppress all this shit is going to be making eye contact and talking to people for real. Be honest. Be like, look, where do we have like a common interest that benefit both of us? You know what I mean? Instead of making all these divides and these like things that are just not going to be self-sustainable because they're going to fall apart. I mean, it's just like you're going to find all these people that are going to believe in your lie, and then it's all going to come crumbling down. But like, oh, it's just, what I'm talking about? It's just that's what happened January 6th or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? It's just like, yeah, we got power and believe in this lie. And then when it all come crashing down, it's just like just following, just following what the president said. Trying to find something that justifies them getting out of trouble. They don't even believe in that. They just don't want to get in trouble. You know what I mean? It's just like, trust me, I've been there. You know what I mean? It's like I needed people to lie for me in court. And where did that get me? It got me this close to being nearly incarcerated for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's not something you ever want to do about it. It's like you want to brag about it. No, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. You know what? Propagate that into someone else. You do have pride in it, but you sit back and think about it. It's like you don't want to destroy someone else's life. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's just you don't want it because that person is gonna look at you and be like, "I listen to that motherfucker." You know what I'm talking about? Fuck him. You know what I'm talking about? But am I gonna sit here and lie that I'm talking about it's stuff that I did as a kid? Yeah, but I was dumb. I was young. You know what I mean? It's just like, but you realize that you had this boredom and this crazy, crazy shit, and then it was boring again. This crazy shit that no one else in the world were able to do for a very, very short period of time. but is it worth it? And then you realize, what is paradise? It's those small things. People coming up to you, being cool with you, being friendly, pushing you towards your goals. That's paradise. Having good weather too. That's what you want. Having people have a higher standard of living, you know what I mean? You don't want to push up this line, because when it all comes crumbling down, what do you have left? You know what I mean? You just got to be real, you know what I mean? It's got to be honest, you know what I'm saying? Push, you know what I'm saying? You got to push for the goals, you know what I'm saying? And you got to hold to those truths, you know what I'm talking about, that give you confidence, and get that good feedback from people, and people wanting to give that feedback, and make those real connections. You know what I mean? Just like furthering it. You want to go down that natural route, you know what I'm talking about? I mean, the thing is, like, if I people push this image of paradise, but if it's just not real, you can't get rid of all the depravity and poverty in Hawaii and be like, oh, this is paradise. You just can't. And it's just, I don't know, it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy of this, it just being exposed, and people like, what the fuck is this shit? You know what I mean? And it's gonna be constant, and you're just gonna be constantly grinded down by it, and you're gonna constantly try to look for another lie. That's why I can't deal with people out here, because, like, there's no Hawaiian blood out here, but people constantly need to state it or whatever, and you can't relate, because even if you convince one person or talk to another, there's going to be another person, and they keep propagating that out, and there's no rational thought, because they hold true to this, like, this is a melting pot, this is this, and it's not. It's by and large just an Asian island or whatever that doesn't like Polynesians, you know what I'm talking about? And they don't even, consider them having, any kind of affinity to Hawaiian culture when they're Polynesian. It's just, and Micronesians. It doesn't make any kind of rational sense. And so it's hard for me to relate with that. I just can't do it, I'm talking about. And so it'd be one thing if, I mean, there's a few people out here, but it's just, I don't know. I just know, like, I could go in other parts of the country and just be like, look, I grew up in Jersey, I did this, then all the different parts, and I know there'll be some overlap, and someone will be like, oh, okay, there's a part where I could connect with that guy, and we could be cool. You know what I mean? And that's that. I was talking about, and over here, it's just like you're putting out this image where you're not, and so when I mention those things, it doesn't um, fit the image they created, and they don't know what to do with it. So, like, you know what I mean? There's no connection, and the end result is there's no bond. You know what I mean? And there's nothing I could do about it, because you're not being truthful. You're not, and I just need real. I need to survive. I need real connections. You know what I mean? So if you put out this image of paradise, whatever, I get that, but there's a limit to it. You know what I mean? It's just, you can only do so much. You know what I mean? So, and I think Puerto Rico should take that. Any place in the Caribbean could take that image. Any place in the world could take it, really. But why can't Puerto Rico? I mean, bring in more money to Puerto Rico, but do it correctly, where every dollar that comes in is like planting a tree per se. I'm saying that's not, don't do that literally, but you see what I'm talking about. It makes it better. You know what I'm talking about? So you want people to come there because, I'm talking, it's a place where it creates revenue or whatever. But if you have some place that's not self-sustainable economy wise, and people are going to come to it because the culture or whatever, is something people want to have connections with it, use it to your advantage. Make sure it grows. You know what I'm talking about? That's what you want to do. It's mostly because it's a Latino culture within America, but you know, um, together with New York mentality of just being on top of everything, and then people being like, you know what I'm saying? So There's a lot of different things, on top of it. So use it to advantage, That's really a side thing. I just touched a very periphery of it or whatever. But at the core of it's being native. So I don't know. And that's really, I just really take offense to like people just like why I'd be like, oh, it's apparently definitely. But understand, don't take agency over it where no one else has it. You know what I'm talking about? It's just, there's other people in the world, you know what I mean? Um, how, if you say that you're only Polynesians, what about Samoans, Tongans, Tahitians, you know what I mean? It's just, I mean, you're just taking away, I guess they call it clout, but what about their jobs? What about their opportunities? You know what I'm saying? Why do they have to be homeless? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Just, and take responsibility for that. Be like, look, I want more than what they have, and I'm willing to sacrifice them. I'm willing to sacrifice them being homeless for me to have a nice car, for me to have a nice house. Just say it. You know what I mean? Don't push on the rug. Don't bullshit people. I mean, and you shouldn't have to sacrifice anybody. You know what I mean? What you should be doing is doing everything possible to have yourself a better life than you taking a job from them. You know what I'm talking about? Or blaming them for whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Because you're creating a situation where no matter what they do, they can't move up in society. You know what I'm talking about? And and they're the ones with the last bit of Polynesian blood, and it doesn't make any logical sense, man. I mean, I was looking at that. I was in the car today. I was walking down. I mean, I was driving, see everybody walking across, and a lot of locals, whatever. And curly hair is a very dominant gene. You only need like maybe an eighth or a quarter of it to have curly hair, and that's a Polynesian trait. You know what I mean? So you just need that little bit, and all you see is Asian hair, Asian hair, Asian hair, and it's just like, and I already had these conversations in Seaside with people from the Big Island, and we had these deep native conversations. I'm not saying that I met all the Hawaiians that came to Jersey and Seaside in the 90s, but I met a couple, and they were telling me there's like no Hawaiian blood, and by and large, it's just like things are called Hawaiian, but it's not really Hawaiian. And we had this other conversation, but it's like when I come up from North Jersey, I lived a street off of Kinder Kamak, adjacent to Hackensack, and these are all like Lenape terms, Native American terms, and that's all that's left. You know what I mean? And so I already knew, but now here I am, 30 some odd years later, and I'm listening to what she told me, and I'm like acting like surprised, and I shouldn't be surprised. I already knew, and I have to reevaluate what is paradise. It is those small little things, people coming up to you being cool with you, and you making yourself into that person that people want to be cool with you, a person that wants to come up to you being cool with you, to advocate for your best interests. You know what I'm talking about? And that's on you. You know what I mean? So you got to go to that place where people do that for you at like have more affinity to do that for you. You know what I mean? And since I'm Latino and I have like half my Spanish blood, I need to go where I'll be most accepted. You know what I'm talking about? And I would love to go to the reservations, but I don't think there's a lot of opportunity there. I'm culturally not Navajo. You know what I'm talking about? What am I, a quarter? You know what I'm talking about? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about? Or if that, you know what I'm saying? Is it going to be Texas? I'm not really, it would be such a foreign thing, but I do want to go there. I want to get a place in Texas. I want to get a place in Florida. I want to get a place in Jersey. I want to get a place in Puerto Rico. I want to have the best of both worlds and just be able to bounce around and maybe even upstate, have a white Christmas, whatever, you know what I mean? So I don't know about upstate. I'll stick to New York, maybe in Manhattan, just get a high rise or whatever, and maybe fly out from there and just have a little bit of touch of a weekend of a white Christmas and come back to Manhattan or whatever. That's my goal, I'm talking about. So I have people, just those little niceties. That's paradise. What did I want for that season? You know what I'm saying? So I mean, to me, that's paradise. Being able to be mobile, go where you want, do what you want. You know what I mean? Search for those people that will look out for your best interests. I'm talking about advocate for you, and you feel good advocating for them. That will reciprocate back to you. I'm talking about, because it feels good getting it back. I'm not gonna lie. What I'm saying, I'm not saying they have to, but there's good people that when you need something intangible or tangible, that they're there. What I'm saying, and you deserve it. You know what I mean? And that's paradise. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of it's like cultural and family, I'm talking about. So, I mean, it's just a lot of different things, you know what I mean? So, it's the best of both worlds, and I'm very grateful that I live in a country that has that, I'm talking about. Because I really do feel like you having this native blood, either it's from the reservation, Texas or Puerto Rico, that you have this inward pride that people really, I think, don't understand. And maybe you look at the world differently. And yes, you argue about certain things about the country. And to them, they take offense and they want to make it, that associated with something external. And that's so infuriating, what I'm talking about? So you reach out, but any externalities, they associate that with you. And I think that's the goal of a lot of people, sort of like to justify a lot of people's racism. Because if they don't like you for being native, they'll look un-American. But they'll look more American if they can associate you having something external. Like if I was like from India or something like that. I'm talking about Sri Lankan or some shit. You know what I mean? So then that way it's just like his anger is not legitimate. And they could legitimize their racism. You know what I'm talking about? So that's why you got to be very attentive. You learn that at a very young age. You know what I'm talking about? So, so now, like, definitely doing this DNA test. I'm brought up that native sentiment of Texas and Puerto Rico, the native sentiment. It's like now I understand why people are so have this animosity towards that. I'm talking about. It's just instead of dividing people, that native sentiment, reservations and whatever. It's even in California. There's native people that I talk to, um, native tribes that now are mixed with other Latinos, and I even met a Korean that's Native American, half Native American, half Korean, half this and that. Because it's all mixed now. You know what I mean? But anyways, it's just, and it's not the only one, by the way. There's quite a few. Um, it's just you don't want to separate these people. You don't want to separate Native people. You know what I mean? You don't want to keep people confined to reservations. You want to have other reservations not talking to other people on the reservations. Other Latinos not talking to other Latinos. Does this unity scare you? It shouldn't. This is America. Why don't you help them become stronger? It's naturally going to happen. Instead of like saying it's going to be some kind of gang unity, why don't like all people, all cultures, all American cultures help that unity come together And that way you have the right influence over it instead of you being scared of it and be like, all these Native people need to be separated. And I think, I mean, is it is this is world's coming is just the world's getting smaller and smaller. We have technology where I could pick up my phone and FaceTime my two sisters. You know what I mean? It's just like we're just all one people now. I mean, it shouldn't really be this thing to be like, oh, we're scared. You know what I mean? And to say something other than this is Armageddon, the world's changing. You be involved in it. Be involved. The right way will change. You know what I mean? Guide people towards the right way of interacting. You know what I mean? I'll be all right. That's all it is. I mean, but anyway, I was gonna do my to-do list. I'll do it in a second, whatever. Let me go see if I could see if I could clean this up or whatever, make it perfect in a sort of way. Meds kicked in and get what I need to do. Jumped all over the place. It's like a fucking Game of Thrones novel that you need a fucking diagram to make sense of what I just said. But um, go for it. If you have any questions, be more than happy to. Um, I'm always better in person. All right. Deuces.